Processing Learning by Jeremy Fluelling. Based on a factory model, our current system of education inadequately prepares students for the world they're entering into. However, education is shifting from this factory model to a 21st century model. From memorization of facts to skill development, from teacher-centered to student-centered, and from no talking to rich collaborative experiences. Anne Shaw expresses it this way: it addresses a rapidly changing world with new problems, as well as exciting new possibilities. One area that has facilitated this shift is an increasing knowledge of how the brain works. Dr. Patricia Wolfe describes how the brain is wired for engagement. The brain is made up of 4 lobes, one for vision, one for hearing, one for higher level thinking, and one for touch and taste. When receiving input from the body, the cells in these lobes fire electrical impulses that connect to other areas of the brain. The more lobes we use to input information, the stronger chance you have of remembering. One strategy you could use to create lots of connections in the brain is think, pair, share. The person listening is accessing the visual lobe as they watch the other person explain, the thinking lobe as they process the information, and the auditory lobe as they listen. Another brain-based approach is tied to the 2 types of memory, procedural and declarative. Declarative memory is necessary for information, names, dates, lists. Procedural memory, though, is skills, routines, habits, actions. What you're trying to teach the students will determine the strategy that you use. Procedural memory takes rote repetition, doing it over and over and over again until the connections in your brain are solid. Declarative memory needs a more creative strategy that gives the information some kind of meaning. Think of all the different songs elementary teachers use to get students to remember the ABCs or the states and capitals. Now think of the lobes of the brain. The names are declarative memory. So repetition may work to memorize these, but something more creative would enable the brain to more easily remember them. Sing to the farmer in the dell. There are 4 lobes in the brain, 4 lobes in the brain, occipital, parietal, frontal, temporal. Occipital controls the sight, occipital controls the sight. You get the picture. Knowing how the brain works enables teachers to use strategies that cause students to remember more. The brain also affects how a student learns individually and socially. Lev Vygotsky developed the social development learning theory. In his theory, he expresses that students who struggle too much with the material give up easily because their brains cannot make the necessary connections. On the other hand, students who find the material too easy give up because the material is not engaging enough. Again, lack of connections. Lev proposed that there is a zone of proximal development in which the curriculum is engaging but not too difficult so that the student is over-challenged. In this zone, the struggle of the student helps to engage them, but also gives them a sense that they can accomplish it. I like to think of this learning theory as the Goldilocks theory. Not too hot, not too cold, but just right. Emotions also have a strong influence on learning. Neuroscience turned teacher Dr. Judy Willis proposes that in order to reach higher level thinking, information must go through a series of gateways. First, the reticular activating system, RAS, is located in the brainstem and filters all the information that the brain takes in. We can effectively use this in our classrooms by making changes that capture the student's attention, play music, rearrange the desks, use strategies that add novelty. If we capture the attention of the RAS, the information passes on to the amygdala. Now the amygdala controls the fight or flight response as well as emotions. If the learning is an engaging, positive experience, the amygdala pairs with the hippocampus to create powerful memories and activates the frontal cortex where high-level thinking occurs. Once the amygdala judges the experience to be a positive one, dopamine, the brain's pleasure chemical, as well as a neurotransmitter, is released. Together, these make up RAD, reticular activating system, amygdala, and dopamine. As we become more aware of how the brain responds to the learning environment, we can use RAD to be more intentional with the strategies and activities that we use in the classroom. Constructivism, a learning theory, relies on these brain connections. Jones and Brader-Arajer-Arahe describe the 3 key ideas that make up this theory. Knowledge is not the finish line, but rather the race itself. The goal is not to fill the students with lots of information, but rather to develop in them the process necessary to gather and interpret their own information. Second, In order to learn, students link new information to prior information. In this case, the connections to the various lobes in the brain, as described earlier, become essential. And third, the responsibility for learning shifts from the teacher to the student, and learning becomes a very personal experience based on the experiences and knowledge that a student already has developed. Understanding the learner becomes essential when the learning process shifts to this more learner-centered approach. Technology also plays a role in the shift from teacher to student-centered learning. Teachers can use technology to research new strategies for teaching diverse learners. Technology gives students the avenue to create social change by magnifying their voice through choice of their personalized projects. It can also empower students by creating an environment in which all students can contribute ideas and information to the class. Rather than replacing the teacher, technology requires the teacher to engage in more powerful roles. In these roles, the teacher utilizes technology to facilitate individual learning. Keeping these ideas in mind, there are some key design elements that we should consider to help frame our lesson plans. Where, why? When taking a trip, you need to know where you are, where you're going, and why you're going there. In the same way, our students need to know these in our lessons. Hook. How can we capture and hold our students' attention? Tailor. Each of our students are unique. We shouldn't teach our class as if they're all clones. Differentiating by content, process, and product can help us recognize and accommodate the uniquenesses of our students. Experience. This is the nuts and bolts of the lesson. What will the students do to get the big ideas? Reflect. Students need the opportunity within the lessons to think and rethink the concepts. Evaluate. It is crucial that students take part in assessing their own understanding of the material. And lastly, organize. The way we organize our lessons can play a crucial role in how well the students engage and can understand the material. The Where To acronym can help us remember to incorporate these key design elements into our lesson. Next, let's focus on the mastery style of learning and two strategies that complement the knowledge of the brain we discussed earlier. One of the 4 styles of strategies is mastery. The goal of the mastery style is to gain information and skills in a memorable way. Remember declarative and procedural information? If not, look back at time 1 minute and 23 seconds in the video. Don't make me sing Farmer in the Dell again. Declarative and procedural information each require different methods to put that type of information into memory. Memory is a process that we can improve upon by using the acronym CODE. C for connect. Our students need to connect new information to their prior knowledge and experience. O, organize. It isn't hard putting things into our brain. What's hard is getting it back out again. Anything we can do to help the students organize that information, such as D, developing visual images. Our brains are visually wired. The use of pictures and graphic organizers can immensely assist the brain in remembering things. E, elaboration. Students need to practice the information in order to keep it in working memory. Code, connect, organize, develop, and elaborate. Other key ideas of the mastery style are presentation and rehearsal of information, effectively motivating students with clear models, and setting clear goals for the outcome. We must empower our students to take the information and make meaningful connections. Sometimes using lecture is the best way to get information across to the students. One way to combine declarative information with meaningful connections is through the New American Lecture Strategy. This strategy incorporates several key ideas that will help the students code the memory. Use a good hook to capture the students' interest and help their minds scaffold the new information to existing experiences and knowledge. After the hook, be sure to set the kindling by posing questions that make them process, internalize, and dialogue. Next, use a bridge to tie the hook and kindling to the content of the lesson. Give the students a visual organizer to help them organize the information. Make sure the organizer matches the content. Stop periodically and pose questions so the students' brains have a chance to process the information and push it into long-term memory. Interestingly enough, when you're planning to use this strategy, you begin with the questions and you work your way back to the hook. In many aspects, this mirrors the backwards design model as set out by Wiggins and McTighe. When the content is procedural or skills-based, the graduated difficulty strategy would be more effective. The strategy depends on two things: activities of varying difficulty and student choice. First, you choose the skill that you want the students to learn and then establish the different levels of difficulty. Second, develop in your students the ability to make wise decisions. They need to examine the various choices in front of them and make the decision that is best for them. Allow the students to change their mind if they choose a level that is too easy or too difficult. Then have the students reflect on if they felt they made a good choice. This strategy helps students practice making good decisions and allows them to work in their zone of proximal development that we discussed earlier. Brain-based learning, social development theory, constructivism, the use of technology, where-to lesson designs, and mastery style learning all play a role in the shift that I described at the beginning of the presentation. The shift from forcing learning on the student to learning with the student. In this new learner-centered environment, the teacher must create a culture in which they learn together with their students. Only then can we truly be successful in shifting our classrooms into the 21st century.